Greetings, September is here, and if you've been watching the channel, you know that I've been saying that September is historically the worst month in the stock market year. On the screen, I've got the seasonality chart for the Russell 2000, which is the small cap index that we follow, and you can see here in the bottom right that September is indeed pretty nasty. Now again, this is the dot for August of 2025, so we just finished a pretty strong month. Will September 2025 follow historical patterns? I'm going to show you some evidence to suggest it might not be all that bad. On the screen right now, I've got a monthly bar chart for the Russell 2000. So I have all of the history, and in the bottom, I've got the months of September. I have their performance indicated. And we're going to take a look at some of those really bad months. But in particular, I want to highlight that not all Septembers are negative. Certainly, the history suggests it is more likely to be negative, but just because it's September doesn't mean we're guaranteed to have a negative month. Okay, so the first September that we want to take a look at is 2001. Let's zoom in on that. This is 2001 on the screen, and you can see the black line represents our 200-day moving average. And you can see by the time September rolls around, the small cap index is already trading below the 200-day moving average, which means it's in a downtrend. Now, remember your history. March of 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. And so the year 2000 was a negative year in the stock market. 2001 was also a negative year in the stock market, as was 2002. So the tides were against small caps in September of 2001. So that's one example. The second September that we want to take a look at is 2011. See how negative that month was. So let's zoom in to 2011. And again, where's the 200-day moving average and where are we at in September? So it's not that surprising when you see that much weakness going into September, that September is going to be negative. The next, and I believe the final negative September that we want to take a look at is 2022. And hopefully that was recent enough that you remember that. Again, the chart, very, very ugly. You can see the small cap index was below the 200-day moving average pretty much the entire year. Everything was pretty much negative. But again, the tides were against small cap in 2022. So let's look at one other month in history before we look at the current year. And let's look at a positive month. This is 2011, I believe. I'm sorry, 2010. And so where's September in 2010? Again, small cap, here's your black line, the 200-day moving average, and you can see a little bit of a base, but as September rolls around, it actually broke through that 200-day moving average and went on to have a pretty nice rally. Take a look at the current year, and this is where we're at right now. And so we're above the 200-day moving average. We're above the 50-day moving average. We have broken through this little mini resistance over here. We have also broken through this level of resistance, which I believe I talked about recently. And so there's a better chance that September 2025 will actually be not that bad. Again, not making any predictions, but we certainly don't want to just look at the month of September and say, well, it's a lost cause, because it is certainly not. That's just the way that I see it for right now. If you find these videos helpful, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, by all means, send me a DM. Thanks.